If this is your first week with us, or maybe your first week in a while, let me see if I can catch you up. We're currently in a little series of messages that we've entitled God Only Knows, and not that God only knows what the title is. The title is God Only Knows. Okay, so let's face it, there are times when we just don't know, do we? We don't know the answers to the dilemmas and the problems that we face. And I'm talking about the problems that seem to come out of nowhere. The troubles that keep us up at night, that rob our peace of mind. God only knows there are times when the only answer that we can come up with is God only knows. But as we discussed, we really might want to think seriously about those very words, because within those words there lies a real truth, doesn't there? Here's the premise that we're kind of working with in this series. If God only knows, then at least someone knows what you're going through. Someone knows the circumstances you're facing. Someone knows the valley you're currently walking through. And who better to know than our omniscient God? And if you remember from last week, omniscient is simply a theological term. Not that the term is simple, but it's a theological term. The Bible teaches that God is all-knowing. So when theologians say that God is omniscient, what they're basically saying is that God is all-knowing, that God has perfect knowledge of all things. And again, we're talking about a knowledge that's absolute, and a knowledge that is unacquired. God has never had to learn anything, and He's never forgotten anything. God doesn't have to reason things out. He doesn't have to find things out. God knows everything. God knows what has happened and everything that will happen. And get this, God even knows every potential thing that might happen. God knows everything possible and everything actual. Everything in the past, everything in the present, everything in the future. The omniscience of God means that He has perfect knowledge, perfect understanding, and perfect wisdom as to how to apply that knowledge. God's never unaware of your situation. He's not in the dark about your specific predicament. God sees the big picture. He sees all the possibilities. And He knows how every scenario plays out. God only knows the situation you're facing is not hopeless. It's not soluble. At least not to one person. For God does know. God only knows, He knows. And He understands. Let me remind you, I'm going to have to take a step back. Let me remind you of the passage that we're kind of using as a touchstone verse for this series. This is Hebrews 4:14-16. Oh. I have to turn it on. I got it. There we go. Therefore, since we have a great high priest who has ascended into heaven, Jesus the Son of God, let us hold firmly to the faith we profess. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet He did not sin. Let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. God only knows we have weaknesses, right? And because He knows, because He understands, we find mercy and grace when we need it. And God only knows we need it, right? God only knows when we're left on our own, we stumble. God only knows we fall. But because He knows, because He understands, we're not left on our own. When we stumble, we're not abandoned. When we fall, we're not forgotten. God only knows we have someone, and not just anyone. We have someone who understands what we're going through. We have a great high priest who not only sympathizes with our weaknesses, but empathizes with our weaknesses. God only knows and He understands. Here's what you need to know. There's no one who knows us more thoroughly, and yet despite His knowledge, loves us more fully, accepts us more completely than our omniscient God. Again, God never has to discover anything. He's never surprised by anything. He's never amazed by anything. He never wonders about anything. He never seeks information about anything. He never asks questions about anything. And according to Ephesians 1:11, God even knows how everything fits together, because He has decreed all things that come to pass. Taking a look at the passage we used as our call to worship. This is Ephesians 1, 9 through 11. God has now revealed to us his mysterious will regarding Christ, which is to fulfill his own good plan. And this is the plan. At the right time, he will bring everything together under the authority of Christ, everything in heaven and on earth. Furthermore, because we are united with Christ, we have received an inheritance from God, for he chose us in advance, and he makes everything work out according to his plan. God is sovereign, which means simply that God's in charge, that God has a plan. It seems only reasonable, doesn't it, that an all-wise, all-knowing, all-powerful God would have a comprehensive plan for the world that he spoke into existence, right? And it certainly makes sense that he'd have the ability to carry out that plan, doesn't it? Paul writes, verse 11, he makes everything work out according to his plan. Do you know the Old Testament story of Joseph, the kid with the colorful coat? The story actually takes 13 chapters to tell. It covers chapters 37 through 50 in Genesis. Joseph, who was the favorite of Jacob's 12 sons, was tossed in a pit by his brothers because they hated him. I mean, really hated him. But rather than kill him, they decided at the last minute to sell their brother, this is compassion, to sell their brother into slavery instead. While a slave in Egypt, Joseph was falsely accused of something he didn't do, actually something he refused to do, if you know the story, and was then wrongfully imprisoned for it. Yet, if you remember the story, Joseph never gave up, did he? He never became bitter. His anger never turned to hatred. Joseph's heart never hardened. His resolve never wavered. Joseph not only survived, he thrived.
You need to speak up because it didn't go out.
Oh, okay. Okay, so, which means you're going to cringe every time it pops back in. Potiphar, who is the Egyptian official that bought him as a slave, promoted him to household overseer. So he was over all the other slaves in the household. The prison warden, when he ended up in jail, put him in charge of all the other inmates. And then Pharaoh, the highest ruler on the planet, made him his prime minister. By the end of his life, Joseph was the second most powerful man in his generation. Joseph literally saved the world from starvation. But how? So how did Joseph overcome such tragedy, you may ask? That's a great question. I'm glad you asked. And not only because inquiring minds want to know, but because we've all found ourselves in a pit at some point, haven't we? Look at what happened. 20 years later, Joseph is now the strong one, and his brothers are the weak ones. And they come to Joseph fearing for their lives, but look at Joseph's response. This is Genesis 50, verse 20. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Joseph's life offers us this lesson. In God's hands, intended evil becomes eventual good. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. Or in the words of the Apostle Paul from our call to worship, he makes everything work out according to his plan. Okay, we're going to try to illustrate this. So we're going to do a taste test. If I could have a volunteer, Mike Pruitt.
This is scary.
Okay.
Is this like church fear factor or something? You want me all the way up there?
Yes. And if you could move like this way.
Move this way.
Well, I'm sitting here because I've got slides that identify.
Oh.
So. Oh. Okay. We'll work out of this.
That's fine.
Okay. But start here and work your way that way. All right? There's a spoon if you want to use it. So this is the first one.
You want me to taste it, huh?
And yeah, see if you can identify it. Yeah, that's a bigger bite than I would have taken.
That's a flour.
Okay, let's check and see. Flour, ding, ding, ding.
Is it? It's not gluten-free flour, though, is it? I'm not allergic.
Okay. But you're going to go back and sit next to Ginger. Is that a problem?
No kisses today. It's stuck on the back of my front teeth.
That's nice. Try this one.
Smaller bite. That's sugar.
Sugar, yes. Ding, ding, ding. Okay. That was next.
Can I just tell you what it is before I put it in my mouth? That's cocoa.
Cocoa, yes. Yeah, don't take a very big bite of that one.
I don't know what that is.
It's baking powder.
Oh. I can't say I've ever had that by itself.
Yeah. Try
Oh, that was awful. But very essential in baking.
Yes.
That's salt.
Yes. Salt, very good.
It gets worse. Oh.
Okay, be careful with this one. Very small. Otherwise, you might not make it back to your seat.
That is vegetable oil.
Let's see. It is vegetable oil. Very good. Oh my.
That isn't what I thought it was. Ugh. Was it buttermilk?
Buttermilk. Yes.
I was hoping it was just milk. I really need to wash this. Woo! I thought you liked me, Tom. You want me to just move on?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that vanilla?
It is vanilla. Very nice. And I don't know whether tasting that one is really an option. Can you guess it without tasting it?
It looks like somebody cut their finger.
It does. I'm not sure you should actually taste that one.
No? It's red food coloring.
It is red food coloring. Very nice.
Why not?
Does it have any taste?
No.
Okay. You don't have to eat that one.
That is a raw egg.
That is a raw egg.
That might give me salmonella, so I'm not tasting it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's eggs. Okay, this one.
That is some sort of cake.
Yes, it is. Red velvet cake. Very good. You can take the food. Good.
Oh.
Okay. Nicely done, Michael. Okay, so our passage, I'm just going to leave you there. Our passage for this morning comes from Romans 8. This is verse 28. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who've been called according to his purpose. Now, I don't need to tell you that Romans 8:28 is probably one of the most beloved verses in the Bible, right? I mean, you know that already. Most of us could easily testify to that fact. You were sick, and this verse was like medicine to your soul. You lost a loved one, and these words somehow carried you through. You were hurt, you were betrayed, let down, and this verse gave you hope. It may shock you to know, however, that there are some who don't believe it or who secretly doubt it. They hear this verse quoted, and instead of it bringing comfort it seems like a cruel joke. They say, what do you mean good? Sickness isn't good. Divorce isn't good. Suicide isn't good. The death of a child isn't good. And here's the problem. This verse is often misused by well-meaning Christians who throw it in the face of those who are suffering as if it's the only answer to every question. When it's misused that way, it unfortunately produces the opposite effect of what Paul had intended. The Bible never asks us to pretend that tragedy isn't tragic. It never asks us to pretend that pain isn't painful. The point is that we need to see the active involvement of God through it. What happens to us isn't fate. It's not kismet. It's not karma. It's not even luck. God's still sovereign, and he's actively involved in your life. So is Paul saying that whatever happens is good? No. Is he saying that suffering and evil and tragedy are good? No. Is he saying that we'll understand why God allows tragedy to come? No. What then is he saying? Paul's simply erecting a sign over the unexplainable mysteries of life, a sign that reads, God at work. How, we're not always sure. To what end? Good and not evil. That's what I think Paul is saying in Romans 8:28. And we know that in all things, not some things, not most things, but in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who've been called according to his purpose. So many things in life are unexplainable, aren't they? Why does a tornado destroy one house and leave another untouched? Barb shared that last week. Why does a tumor come back when the doctor thought he got it all? Why do only the good die young? A question Billy Joel has been asking for centuries. Not centuries, generations, decades. Thank you. The list of questions are endless, aren't they? Seen in isolation, they make no sense whatsoever. If there's a purpose behind such tragedy, we can't see it. Here's the problem. I think we tend to judge the end by the beginning. Or, to be more exact, we judge what we cannot see by what we can see. When tragedy strikes, if we can't see a purpose, we assume there isn't one. But actually, the opposite is true. What we ought to do is judge the beginning by the end. Here's where Romans 8:28 can really help. The phrase, in all things, God works, is based on the Greek word synergy, which may be horribly mispronounced, but the term is really kind of Greek to me. It's where we get our English word synergy. And what is synergy, you may ask?
What is synergy?
Synergy is what happens when you put two or more elements together to form something brand new that neither could form separately. So, for instance, sodium, the element sodium by itself, is caustic and it's harmful. The gas is toxic. Chloride, also caustic, also toxic, in the gas form is poisonous. But together, sodium chloride is table salt, which is helpful. It enhances the flavor of food. It preserves food. It's helpful. It's what happens when you mix all these individual ingredients together in a bowl and bake them. Red velvet cake is synergy. Now, we would never eat most of these ingredients by themselves.
I would.
Mike would. Mike did. Let's give it to Mikey. Well, what was that commercial? Life cereal, yeah. In fact, we probably shouldn't eat most of these on their own. But in red velvet cake, they combine with all the other ingredients to produce something really good. That's synergy. The combination of many elements to produce a positive result. That's what I think Paul means when he says, in all things, God works for the good of those who love him. Many of the things that make no sense when seen in isolation are in fact working together to produce something good. There's a divine synergy even in the darkest of moments, a synergy that produces something positive. And the good that's ultimately produced really probably couldn't have happened any other way. I'm going to invite you to come up as we sing our closing. Because I have these red velvet cake bites. So if you'd like to come up and get a red velvet cake bite, you're welcome to do that. If you want to take a moment and pray, because we all have those things in our life that in isolation they don't make sense. This reminds you that everything works together. In all things, God works. Our benediction comes from Isaiah 46, verses 9 and 10. This is from the Message. I am God, the only God you've ever had or ever will have, incomparable, irreplaceable, from the very beginning telling you what the ending will be, all along letting you in on what's going to happen, assuring you I'm in this for the long haul. I'll do exactly what I set out to do. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen.